Welcome to our podcast, episode 80 on confinement. Finally, I get to speak about confinement because I delayed on this one a little bit because of me, trying to create my own version of confinement to keep the series alive beyond, Lord Bong's channel being gone. But obviously, I'm going to talk about Lord Bong's one first. So, spoiler warnings for, confinement. If you want to watch, the originals, I highly, recommend it. Obviously, spoilers for my version that's, trying to continue Lord Bong's story, but obviously, it's also a mix with my story as well. So it's a half and half, but I'm also trying to stay faithful to the original confinement. But yeah, spoiler warning. So if you haven't, go watch the originals. The originals are by far the best. Not saying that my version is bad, it's just a little bit different, like inevitably there would be, some changes, and my kind of humor is improv humor, so it works better on if there's, more people, but it's a little bit harder when it's just myself, so I have to rely more on running gags for the humor than uh, actual jokes. So I'm the person, to add more running gags than, um, you know, actual jokes. So yeah, but there'll probably be jokes, just not probably as many as I guess confinement. But yeah, let's talk about Lord Bong's first. Um, um, so Lord Bong obviously is the original creator. Um, and hi Sky, welcome to stream. Yeah, again, I'm live streaming these. Um, so yeah, again, potentially, you know, I could respond to anyone else watching, you know, when it's live stream. But yeah, yeah, um, um, but yeah, Lord Bong, um, version, being the classic, the original, over 7 episodes and a few specials such as Only Us, Anomalies, Fine and Dandy, um, the Christmas one, uh, Connor against the Immortal Lizard, and um, the other one that was a part of but it was a part of episode 7. Yeah, that was, yeah, a few different specials. Hopefully, I'm not missing any. I don't think I am. But yeah, confinement, had its, fair share of episodes before its end on episode 7, and it was just eternal waiting, like like it's understandable why it may have not come out in 2020 because of everything that happened, but then 2021 passed, no real news, then 2022, and then eventually 2023, where it was finally the truth was revealed, and um, you know, Lord Bung deleted that channel, but luckily, people re-uploaded the videos, and obviously I've re-uploaded them as well onto my channel, so that they're here as well. Um, so if you want to watch the originals, they are on my channel. Um, um, uh, and yeah, but it was a classic series, and it's sad how things went, and that's why I wanted to, you know, make my own version to, continue it, continue the legacy, as, with my past losing, um, Rogers, like the original Rogers for quite some time. Rico and Blue are back now, like, but I don't know if they're going to play their original characters um, anytime soon. So yeah, um, please don't bug them. Uh, um, but hey, they're at least back, so that makes me happy. So even if they play different characters in the future, it doesn't matter to me as long as they're back. I don't really care. Like as long as they're back, I'm happy. Like that's all I really wanted was them back. So yeah. Um. So yeah. Uh. Uh. uh but yeah. So then after Lord Bung like deleted his channel, obviously there was re-uploads, and then I began formulating my version of confinement. So um, let's do a plot summary of Lord Bung's series to catch up. Here's the definite spoilers. So yeah, again, if you haven't already clicked off the video and don't want spoilers for Lord Bung's version or potentially my version, you know, yeah, again, click off now. But here's a plot summary of what happened. So there's the immortal D-class Connor. He often deals with, situations for the Foundation, and it seems like there might be some sort of darker demon within him that is started to be hinted towards in like episode 5, like that there's potentially some dark demon or something within him, and eventually, more foreshadowing in like the IKEA thing, um, but nothing ever came like of it. Nothing ever came of it because obviously Lord Bung quit. So yeah, that's where I was like decided to take up the matter of trying to continue the series. But yeah, Connor had a girlfriend named Natalie Powers. He also, had dealings with other characters like Dr. Wilson and Dr. Hilda. Obviously, I had to use those two for, my series. Uh, Same as Natalie, but she's going to appear later on. Um, she did appear a little bit in episode 8, but only briefly. We'll get to that when I get to that. Um, but yeah, um, uh, so yeah, and kind of deals with like many SCPs and yeah, and has made friends like Ian, who was previously the Anderson Robotics robot, SCP-1360, I believe. Um, and yeah, also he had his friend Gilbert, and yeah, um, yeah, but uh, yeah, Connor didn't exactly have a great life, um, and he just wanted to be, you know, normal. Like, in the end of the day, like he just wants to be normal eventually, and yeah. But now let's get to my continuation of the story. So my story, picks up basically right off where it left, which the first thing I did was to do episode 8. Finally, do the episode 8. Finally, try and, do the thing, Lord Bong was building up to but never delivered. So I had to, try and deliver that. Hopefully, it will live up to some people's expectations. Obviously, not everyone's, but, that's the thing. Like, once someone else takes control of, something, like, it'll never be quite the same. The same magic is never there. Like, how, like, you know, Rogers died when, it was no longer played by Riku. So my version, even though, it was similar to the original Rogers, I, tried to keep the same jokes and stuff. My version of Rogers can never live up to, the heights of, you know, Riku. Like, Riku was, the best. Rogers, like, absolute genius at, making funny improv stuff. But I'm just like, I don't know how to do Rogers other than make him very random. Like, so, like, I can do a good job at Rogers, but I'm not like Rogers, the ideal Rogers, Um, and I guess that sort of applies to, confinement. Like, I can, keep the same running gags and, like, try and keep it faithful to the original confinement and, um, try and do all these things to, you know, try and make it as similar to the original as possible. But nonetheless, I am not Lord Bung, and I will never have, that same spark as Lord Bung. So, like, it will never have the same magic. But yeah, um, but yeah, but everything, like, was, you know, um, was focused on episode 8. Like, I had to focus on 8 more than any other episode. Like, it was the thing that needed to get the ball running. I mean, that also kind of, applied to episode 1 of season 2 and episode 2 of season 2, but I'll get to those when I get to those. So, the plot, as far as I could gather from the trailer of Lord Bang, is that Connor would have some sort of dealing with the salesman, because it was called episode 8, the salesman. They looked like there was some like mushroom gang in an alleyway. Yeah, again, I would bring that idea. Also, a joke version of Amazon called Anomazon, which I also used, and it also looked like there was like some torrents like thing in the trailer. Also, at some point, there was like a guy presumably called Messy Boy by his bib that he had on him in a boxing ring that seemingly would be boxing against Connor for some reason. And obviously the start bit of that trailer being like the ep80 just being, absolutely douchebags and taking away the funding from the ethics committee to put into the like more soldiers and stuff. And yeah, not to mention, the foreshadowing at the end of 7 that something would happen to Nally Powers, which, yeah, again, I did do in my version of 8, but I'll get to that. But yeah, there wasn't a lot to go off of since it was only a 2-minute trailer. So it was like 1 minute of actually, substantial content. And then like, you know, like 30 seconds of teaser content. Oh yeah, there was also the Plague Doctor and Lord Bang's thing, like with what looked like the Plague Doctor potentially like injecting something, and like his mask was a lot more like ornate in Lord Bang's version. Like it looked like it had like gold and stuff on it. But yeah, uh, but yeah, I would use those tiny nuggets of ideas for episode 8, and then later for episode 3 of my, season 2. But yeah, let's talk about, the actual plot of my episode 8. Obviously, since Lord Bang never got to do it. So my episode 8 is, Connor, has to deal with the salesman. Like, he gets a mission. There's also some references to, my series for obvious reasons, since, I've taken over. So, I want to allude to, what's about to come, allude to, the fact that, now Michael's here, um, you know, it's going to be a merged timeline sort of thing. Because I don't know how far I would be able to go with the idea without, me. Because certainly I could do, episode 8 and what I did in episode 3, but beyond that, if I didn't combine the series, like, what would I do? Like, yeah, I could have done what I did in episode 4 as well, like, and be like more generic with it than actually tying it to my series. Yeah, again, I'll talk about episode 4 when I get to it. I'm just being vague right now for, not to spoil it. But but yeah, uh, yeah, like the most I would have had is 3 episodes, and then that would be it. Maybe 3 episodes of ideas, and then it would definitely have to be my own ideas. So it was just easier for it to become a part of my universe, and it allowed for interesting situations which we'll get to later. But let's finally talk about episode 8. um well, I started talking about it, but yeah, let's actually talk about what happened. So yeah, Connor has to deal with the salesman. She's been planted with trackers by the plague doctor, so I used that little nugget of the plague doctor being involved in some way in that episode. Um, yeah, obviously Dr. Wilson was there, Michael was there. Eventually, Connor does the mission. Hit one of his arms get taken by the salesman for a deal of freedom, and I forget what the other thing was. I think it was like freedom and wisdom or something like that I said. To allude to the fact that eventually Connor will be free because of Michael. So does that mean, because the salesman, is kind of reality bending, does that mean salesman indirectly is at least somewhat responsible for, Michael reforming the foundation? And I guess the only answer to that question is technically yes. So, yeah, the salesman is the true reason the foundation reform, but not really. It's kind of, a mixture of, Michael and also the Book of Lies, because the Book of Lies did a lot of things secretly in the background, things that will never be revealed. Like, what did he do? Like, the only thing that I ever implied that ever directly implied was that the book of, well, actually, I think I just told it outright, was that the Book of Lies took the powers of the O5 Council, and that's why it was so easy to kill the O5 Council, because they didn't have any powers because of the Book of Lies. But yeah, 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 um, um, Connor, loses an arm, but it'll ruin the salesman's business kinda with his employers. By his employers, you know, you know, he kind of be unemployed for the most part, but one of his last orders from them was to sell Ghosto, which is where he would go. And yeah, um, which I do need to do more of the salesman at some point, actually like explain that, because there's kind of a contradiction, because yeah, again, my episode 8 takes part in 2020, before the salesman goes to Noir, because originally what I said with the salesman is that his employers, um, um, you know, um, made him sell Ghosto, but from confinement, the salesman himself said that, um, um, like his unemployment, like not having his, higher ups anymore, like he didn't have anywhere else to go, so he started selling Ghosto. So I do need to fix that at some point. A small mistake on my part, um, with my salesman law so far. But yeah. Anyway, eventually Connor returns to find the mysterious evil foundation member, who eventually is like, we've captured Nally, and you're gonna be our puppet and slave, Connor. Like, very dark foundation thing with them administering amnestics to Connor to keep him under control, um, and make him like a slave to the foundation. The ending literally having the In the Pines song, um, like, was just, that ultimate masterstroke. Like, this has to be the, the ending song. It's so fitting, like, you know, like, it's such a, sad ending, and, like, basically, if Michael had never reformed the foundation, Connor would be technically forever their slave and their puppet, which is kind of funny enough, almost a similar fate that befell Michael, because he was also, administered amnestics by, the foundation, and was controlled by the foundation for some time. Like if it wasn't for, I think it was the Chaos Insurgency, like him kind of teaming up with the Chaos Insurgency, like he would have never remembered. So, yeah, Michael almost befell, the same fate as Connor, but luckily, fate was on Michael's side, because obviously it couldn't just end with Michael, you know, being controlled forever, especially since back then when I was doing, Michael the SEP God, the early episodes, it was still when Rogers was, continuing, because it was, that episode happened before Michael killed the O5, which I told to, Detective Blue when, back when Detective Blue played the character. It's always funny, the name of my friend, Detective Blue, the name of the character, Detective Blue. It's just funny. It's the funniest thing. It's literally that one joke where, are you talking about Detective Blue, the person or the character? And all the person says is yes in response, and it's very unclear. It is literally just that meme. Anyway, but yeah, episodes 8 of my version is very dark, and I kind of wanted it to be that way, like a dark ending fitting, or like the real life, where the ending itself, seven being the ending, is kind of, abrupt. But obviously, it doesn't stop with just 8. So now I'm going to talk about season 2 of my version, the beginning of a new series. So the first episode, named The Shift, is during the period of Michael taking over. Basically, the civil war of the Foundation, when Michael was taking over, like, the ethics committee was scrambling to, keep people loyal to them, with the '05 council dead, it was a time of chaos, and a time that I haven't actually covered a lot of, um, um, like, in my series. I mean, it was kind of there for 3 episodes of, Michael the SEP guard, when Michael was fighting against the ethics um, committee, but like, otherwise it wasn't really ever shown in detail, like that chaos. So showing a bit more of the chaos, and I've made more hints to what happened during that Civil War period, where the Foundation was in shambles because of what Michael had just achieved, what many people didn't even think was possible was achieved by seemingly a normal MTF card. So, yeah, it was quite a time for the Foundation. And, the Foundation was in chaos. But yeah, so the shift, takes place during those events. And, Connor and Wilson have to get out alive. And then also it shows, our times where Connor and Michael talked, and then eventually gets up to, the present of 2023 at the time. But, our podcast will be in 2024. Um, yeah. Uh, 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 yeah. So yeah, all that chaos happens, and Connor, you know, survives it thanks to his parents. So does Dr. Wilson, but he doesn't have powers. Uh, uh, and yeah, but yeah, the shift is quite a simple episode. It's just showing that literal shift from where Connor's timeline enters my timeline, and it combines together. Um, then episode 2 of my series is the reunion, when Connor gets to reunite with his old friends like Ian Gilbert and Dr. Hilda, and uh, um, also gets to talk to Dr. Wilson, but it's not really a reunion when Dr. Wilson still is at the Foundation, where Dr. Hilda left the Foundation. Um, but it is still going to be appearing periodically through the series, like in episode 2, and also the confinement special that I did, but I'll get to that when I get to that. But yeah, episode 2 is mainly that, and also Michael got to reunite with someone, being SEP. I forget the number, but it's the old man from nowhere. Like, it's unknown, like, like like where he comes from, and like yeah, and I gave him the name Matthew, which is, now thinking about it, is, the name of uh, the peanut for SCP's Secret Labs. So, I think it's gonna stick. I think, the name's gonna stick that I use Matthew for him instead of like the peanut. The peanut will never be referred to as Matthew. It's always going to be the peanut, um, unless he changes form to the tripod, or changes form to the walnuts, which is what I'm probably going to call this secret lab version of him. But yeah, um, yeah, he's forever the peanut. Um, but yeah, it's fitting that is one of the other SCPs take the name of Matthew. Um, so yeah, it's more fitting for, him, a human, to get, proper names. So yeah. But yeah, also the salesman appears, which is where that contradiction I mentioned earlier comes in, where it's like, you know, uh, uh, but I'll have to fix that later at some point. So I don't know when I'll be able to fix that, but I'll fix that at some point. Um, and it's not that much of a retcon. It'll just be like the ghost. So yes, it was while, he did it while being unemployed, but it was like his final order from the businessman. That way, it, doesn't conflict as much. It's not a full retcon, but like it's fixing the two things together where it makes sense. Um, um, but anyway, that's, yeah, again for the future. Anyway, uh, yeah, so episode two's, reunion, fairly simple episode. Episode three is the battle of the Anomazon Corporation, where I finally get to use Anomazon and the Mushroom Gang and all those, like, themes of what seem to be, like, potentially maybe gangsters and a corporation potentially at war, even though that's only literally based off the one thing where there was that turret thing shooting, which since I couldn't get a turret that looked similar, I just used a different robot, being the murder drones, which I think ended up being a funnier joke, because I call, like, I called them initially murder androids as one character, but the other character called them murder drones. Like, murder drones sounds like a band name, and it was such a good joke. Especially since the music of murder drones cued right as I, like, said it, because the NPC had music with it. So, yeah, it was just wow, perfect joke. It's just like it was one of those just perfectly timed jokes. Like it could have been timed better. Like it was such an unintentional thing, but improv, like, is very good for, unintentional jokes. That's what I do the best, is, unintentional things that are just, perfectly merged. But yeah, Connor obviously joins the Anomazon Corporation, but eventually, becomes part of the gangsters and overthrows the Anomazon Corporation. But, the remnants of that corporation will join, like, join the gangsters, and they joined, and the gangsters joined the payday gang, um, which I hinted, mentioned that, in one of my shorts, like, hey, payday gang, like, how's, the mushroom gang going, even though the mushrooms are dead, but you know, how they going, like I mentioned that in character. So yeah, it's canonical that the underground joined the payday gang in some form or fashion. Um, and but yeah, Connor basically, goes through multiple things. Also, first thing with his inner demons, the Dark One for, I guess, this season, and that would be built upon more later, but I'll get to that. So I talk about episode 4, but then it was my first confinement special, the Christmas one. So yeah, definitely cool to have that. Definitely cool thing to have. Um, but yeah, Connor just enjoying his first true Christmas, although he had you know um uh his first Christmas in the other special, the one made by Lord Bung, but he didn't really get to celebrate it. He became a gingerbread man and got eaten, so I don't exactly count that as a proper true first Christmas, one that he actually gets to celebrate. Um, so yeah, uh, 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 yeah. Uh, his true first one was my special. But yeah, not much happened there. But episode 4, the reveal of the Dark One, and it was a living darkness creature, just because it made most sense, and also, you know, that, you know, that weird cult where as I'm calling them, the cult of the void or the church of the void, you know, called their master the Lord of the Void. And I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect. I will make Connor's demon, the one void born living darkness creature. And his older brothers, you know, the original living darkness itself. And but you know, he led the younger brother, Connor's demon, led them to Vertigo to create the living darkness. And yeah, um, yeah, but yeah, that there also was the big battle and all that. And yeah, um, it was quite an episode. And yeah, um, quite um, a bit of lore for that episode. And yeah, that's Connor's journey so far. So yeah, halfway through season 2, which is technically, my first, season of doing it. But, it is what it is, and yeah. But yeah, that's the story so far. And yeah, but yeah. Um, Um, yeah, but obviously I like Lord Bungs a lot. Not that I dislike, my version. Like, obviously I'm putting a lot of passion into it to make it, you know, you know, um, close to the original, as faithful to the originals as possible, but obviously things will inevitably change. But yeah, I guess that's it for confinement. So yeah, I like confinement a lot. Obviously, now that I'm doing it, I'm very passionate about it. And yeah, pretty cool. And one thing I just realized, uh, like, um, since this is, a new computer, I don't have the original image for our podcast thing. So I'm going to have to take a new one. So, yeah, that means the thumbnail will probably be ever so slightly different from this episode forward just because of my new computer, and I forgot to save the original because I didn't even think about it until just now. So yeah, and since I don't have it saved and uh, it was on my old computer, I guess now forever the Our Podcast image is going to be slightly changed for the foreseeable episodes that are just me solo. Um, but yeah, I guess I have to go take a picture in VR chat now. But yeah, thank you all for watching this episode of our podcast on confinement. And yeah, see you all next time for whatever the next one is. Yeah, I think the next one's going to be possibly the llamas with hats. So yeah, um, yeah, that should be the next one. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Peace.